Welcome to part 3 of the 500 subscriber Q&A. This one is all about cloth pads, how to use them, how to store them, any questions that people had about how you go about traveling with them, and all kinds of questions like that. I have been overwhelmed by how many questions you gave me in response to the Q&A giveaway entry, and I'm so appreciative. So I'm going to take the time to answer all of these for you. Just for a little bit of Amy trivia, the picture that you see here is actually the bin that I keep my pads in. You'll notice that I keep my overnight separated over there on the side, and all the other ones are down below where I can just kind of reach in and feel with my hand and select one. And later in the video, somebody asked me to show how I store them, and so you'll see where I keep this bin. But anyway, welcome to part 3. I hope you enjoy this. I swear I tried to keep it short and I completely failed. But I don't think you guys are shocked by that anymore at this point, are you? So let's go ahead and get into them. I have my fingers crossed that this one isn't going to be as long as the other ones, but I always say that and it always is. But we're going to get through it. Okay. Question number 1. How many pads does a normal woman need for her cycle? I know that this is probably the most frequently asked question. Yes, it is. But it puzzles me. Okay, and because she was talking to me about how many that she uses, and see, in the question that you gave me the parameters. You told me how long your cycle is. You told me how many pads you use. You told me about what your flow is like. Every woman, those 3 variables are different. And there's another variable. There's comfort level. Some women, they don't mind wearing them longer. Some people want to change them much more frequently than others. There is no answer to that question. How many pads does a normal woman need? We can give some ballparks. We can say things like, some women will go through as many as 6 pads in a day, but then, there are people who use far fewer than that and people who use far more than that. And it also depends on, there's so many variables. It depends on the absorbency level that you buy in your pads, because, a lot of people, they don't want to change them. So even if they have a light flow, they'll get like a heavy pad and they'll just wear that sucker all day and then change it when they get home. And then if you're like me, I just like the feeling of a nice clean one and a fresh one. So I change them as frequently as possible throughout the day. I go through way more than I technically need, but I go through the number I want. So I can go through as many as 7 or 8 in a day, but that's not typical. There really is no typical. So I'm sorry. I know it's a terrible way to answer this question because everybody asks it. There's no answer to that question. More than one. How about that? All cloth pads and, of course, menstrual cups are mentioned by amount of flow. What is the definition of low, moderate, regular, and heavy flow? And then also this, and I'm sorry, your name is so pretty. And I know that this is probably not how it's pronounced, or maybe this is a combination of initials or something, but I've just taken to calling you Kejasani. I love that. Okay. Anyway, I just made an idiot out of myself. She's been like, what? Those are like my initials and the names of all my kids, and that is not a name. And or even worse, you're someone from another country and I've completely butchered a name from that country. Whatever. Kejasani, that's what I call you. Just so you know, that's what I call you in my head. Okay, but she mentioned that she had some fears about leak through, and that was my big thing too. When I first came into using cloth pads, I was terrified that they were going to leak on me, and because I had leaking issues with disposables, and I mean that was like when I was really suited up for battle. I had really long overnights. I would wear the long overnight disposable pads just as a routine, just during the day, because I would have leaking issues no matter what I did, and I wore them in tandem with internal protection, and it didn't help. I mean, I still had leaking issues. So I get you on the fear for that. I was convinced that cloth could not possibly be sufficient. And that's why we have PUL, polyurethane laminate. If you make your own, or if you buy pads, I strongly recommend that if you are really nervous about leaks, until you get over that fear, get yourself some pads with a PUL liner. It's polyurethane laminate, and I've talked about that in a lot of my videos, how to put in a hidden PUL layer if you're sewing your own. And anytime you go to a shop on Etsy, or even the bigger name brand shops that sell the base and liner types of pads like Schoon Organics and Luna pads and such, you can get things from them that have waterproof barriers in them so that you don't have to be scared of leaking. However, let's go ahead and answer the question, because it's a question a lot of people have. It's like, what does it mean when they say light flow, moderate flow, heavy flow? If you go and you read medical stuff, medical websites, and if you ask your gynecologist, they will probably tell you that human women, human menstruating people, tend to lose between 2 and 3 tablespoons on average per cycle, meaning that through the entire cycle, the amount of fluid that is released from the body in the menstrual flow is 2 to 3 tablespoons. However, what is considered, quote, normal, end quote, is between 2 and 8 tablespoons per cycle. I'm more on the 8 tablespoon end. 4 ounces is 8 tablespoons. Each tablespoon is about a half an ounce of fluid. I hope that helps. I don't know what measure. I guess I could probably look up grams, but you guys can Google that if the way that you measure fluid is in grams. Go look up the fluid equivalent of an ounce in grams, and that will tell you what you're looking at. But the truth is, it varies from woman to woman. It varies from period to period, and there's a lot of difference that falls in with normal. So when they say light flow, they mean something less than 2 to 3 tablespoons per cycle. And if they're talking about a moderate flow, it's 2 to 3 tablespoons per cycle, and anything more than 3 tablespoons per cycle is considered heavy. So that's what that means, as if you want to define it and put quantities on it. But generally, it's kind of a subjective thing. If we think our flow is heavy, we say we have a heavy flow. And if we think it's light, we call it light. And very few actually measure it, although some cup users do keep track of how much. So I hope that answered your question. But if you're worried about leaking, get PUL in your pads. And then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Okay, could I maybe do a video or just tell you how many milliliters of fluids moderate pads from different makers hold before they will leak? I could do that, but I'm not really sure how helpful it would be, because the way water or any other fluid, I could get all cutesy and do like red wine or something like that, but that would be a waste of good wine, wouldn't it? I could do something like that, and I could show you how much before it started to pool up or before it started to leak through the back of the pad, which, of course, if it has PUL in the back, it won't until you completely soak it and it starts coming out the sides. But I'm not sure how helpful that would be, because menstrual flow is far more viscous, meaning it's thicker and it's stickier than water. And so the amount of menstrual flow you can put into a pad is significantly different than the amount of water or urine, for example, that a pad would hold. So I'm not really sure how helpful that would be. I mean, I could compare absorbencies between like one maker and another, but that doesn't really appeal to me, because I don't think it's going to be a substantial enough difference. And I would hate to say that, oh, this shop has more absorbent pads than this shop, because I don't want someone to not purchase a pad from one shop versus another based on water spilling out of it on my kitchen table on a video, because I just don't think that's a very accurate way to gauge. I can tell you my favorite pad shops, and I have used, and as a person with a heavier flow, I have moderate pads from all 3 of these shops, and I've never had a leak with any of the 3 of them. Annie Bell's Essentials, Hidden Glen Handmaids, and Yurtcraft, and I will put links to all 3 of those shops down below. They make wonderful pads, and they're all roughly equivalent in absorbency. There might be a little bit of difference if we poured warm water on them between one and the other, but it would be a very little bit of difference. And I just don't think that it's a very useful test to begin with. If somebody has a way without, actually using somebody's blood, which I'm not going to do, that I could do a more accurate, testing, I'd be happy to do that. How would you travel with RUMPS, reusable menstrual products? I had several people ask me this. I've traveled a couple of different ways with them. It depends on how long I'm gone for and whether or not I will have access to laundry facilities. If you're going to be gone for a lengthy trip, you need to look up a coin laundry or, a laundromat, or, find a place that you can do your laundry while you're gone. Because if you're going to be gone for like a month or so, or more than a week, in other words, a week after the period. So if the pads that you're going to soil during your cycle on this vacation that you're taking or on this trip that you're taking are going to sit in a wet bag, soiled for more than a week, then I would say you need to seek out some public laundry facilities so that you can deal with it for yourself. But if you're staying in a hotel where you have a private bathroom, if you have access to a private bathroom, like you're using a guest bathroom in a home where you can go in, close the door behind you, and take a shower in privacy, that sort of thing, then you're pretty much good to go. I've taken them on a trip to my mother's house, and that was super easy. I rinsed them out after I used them, and I washed them in a load of my own laundry, and they were kept in my wet bag in between. If I were to be staying in a hotel for a long-term stay, I would, in the bathroom in our hotel room, I would have my wet bag, and then when I felt like washing them, I would do my entire process that I demonstrate in my video about how to wash your pads without having stains. I'd do that entire process right there in the sink in the bathroom, which would mean that when you go, you should take a large wet bag, the same one that you would use at home to keep your pads in. Just throw the wet bag in your suitcase. And all your clean pads in there, and then when you get to your hotel or your destination, you take your clean pads out of the wet bag and you put them somewhere where they're going to stay clean, and as you use them up, you put them in your wet bag just as you normally would. That's never been an issue for me. It's really, I do the same thing on vacation that I do at home. If, however, you're going to be in a place where you don't have access to laundry facilities, my strong recommendation is that you take them into the shower with you, rinse them out, stomp them on the floor of the shower, or hand squeeze them. I don't like putting my feet on things, and I don't like putting things, especially if it's not my bathroom, I'm not going to put my pads on the floor of the shower, but a lot of people do that. I would stand there and hold them, and I would rinse them all out and make sure that the majority of all of the fluids were out of the pads, and then I would hand squeeze them as dry as I could make them, and then I'd put them back in my wet bag, and I would keep them that way. If you keep the wet bag, open a little bit to prevent the growth of mildew or what have you, you don't want it sealed up in there. I just don't think it would be a problem. I mean, you can let them sit in there for up to a week. Don't forget them when you get home. Put them in the laundry. You could set them out to sun if you had a balcony and you didn't have access to a dryer. You could set them out on your hotel balcony, or just basic common sense things. It depends entirely on whether or not you have access to a washer and dryer and whether you have a private bathroom that you're going to be using. There is no travel situation I can think of that you couldn't work it out so that you could take your pads with you and be comfortable. Especially if you're using a cup in tandem with pads, there's just not going to be that much fluid to deal with, so it's going to be super easy to take care of them. Let's see, and then the companion question is, would I ever go camping whilst using cloth? You bet. Do the same exact thing. Where do I store my pads? I'm going to show you a photo. Okay, this picture is taken in my bathroom. I use different bins now, but the bin that I use to keep my pads in is exactly like the one you see there on the shelf above the toilet. It's within arm's reach for me, and I keep all my pads and my bag of cups in a container exactly like that one, only it's prettier and it matches now. I took this picture the day that I made this little thing to go over my toilet to show it to my husband so he'd know what I had purchased. This is just a little tub that I purchased at Target, and you can get these little collapsible cubes pretty much anywhere, and I keep it in there. Now, I've heard some people talking about, oh, but the bacteria flying around in the bathroom. It's like, yeah, well, nobody cares. They dry their clean bodies with a towel that's been in the same room as the toilet. I'm not terribly worried about it. I mean, if you want to go all Fort Knox and have a closed container, you go right ahead. It just doesn't really bother me. My pads sit probably about 3 feet above the toilet, and they are in a closed bottomed container, so I just don't worry about it. And it's very, very convenient because I can just reach up behind me, grab one, and change them out. And then my wet bag sits hanging on the toilet roll dispenser. is there a way to make pads for those who prefer to wear boxer shorts? I got several underwear related questions. And this one was just the first one, so this one's the one that boxer shorts in particular, but also boxer briefs. There are religious groups that wear special undergarments that make it difficult for using snap wing pads. So what I would recommend, and now if it's a religious thing, you're going to have to speak with, especially, like with the LDS community, I would strongly recommend that you come up with an idea of what you want to do, how you want to handle it. I've heard some LDS ladies wear regular brief underwear underneath so that they can wear their pads. And then I've heard some other people come up with other ideas about how they can attach the pad to the garments. But you'd need to speak with your bishop about that and deal with that way. For people who want to wear boxer briefs, boxer shorts, or even going commando, people want to know about that. So I would say with any kind of atypical underwear that's not going to be snug, now boxer briefs, we'll start with those. Boxer briefs are still snug, so you can wear those and they fit snugly enough that a pad wouldn't shift around, etc. I would recommend that what you do is you apply snaps to the inside of several pairs of them and just have those designated as your menstrual briefs, and then you can snap a pad into them and then snap the pad out. That would be super easy to come up with. So fix it so that you can snap the pad in and snap the pad out. That would be my recommendation for those. However, if you're going to do boxers or go commando or something like that, those tend to be much looser, and so they would not reliably hold the pad against your body. You could go with a very old-fashioned system where they have a belted system. Basically what you would do is wear like an elastic belt. They used to wear them like high up around their waist, and so they would have these big elephant pads all the way up. And you don't have to do that, but you would want to come up with some kind of a garter or an elastic belt kind of system that you could snap the pad to that, and it would hold it in place around your body. Or maybe just during your cycle, wear boxer briefs instead of boxers. I don't know if you, because the key with pad use is that they have to be kept and held close enough to your body not to shift around. Otherwise, you're going to leak off to the side and miss the pad entirely. That's the risk that you run with that. But I'm sure people are real creative. Human beings are smart. I'm sure you can come up with something. But my first thought was to come up with a belt system, much like the one they used in the 50s and 60s. That's what I would recommend. Okay. What is my favorite length of pads and why is it my favorite? I prefer the 10 to 11 inch pads for day wear, and I prefer something 12 and a half, 13 inch for overnight. I like the extra length for overnight because I'm a side sleeper and I sleep all curled up, and so I tend to have back leaking if I don't have a longer pad. But the 10 to 11 inch, the reason I like it is because that is the length at which I don't feel it touching me, and it's not too long and obtrusive and showing through my pants or anything, but it's not short enough to, try to crawl up my bum. So that's just the length I like. And I also like a 2.5 inch gusset. That's the one that fits around my underwear. I wear the boy short style. I don't wear boxer briefs, but I wear the boy short style, and they tend to have a little bit of a wider crotch. So I like the 2.5 inch. Anything between 2.5 to 3 is good for me, but if it gets up to 3 inches, I won't like it anymore, because that fits snugly around my underwear without being too wide for my underwear. Can I do a video on longer pads of any absorbency? Yeah, I can do that. Lots of people like longer pads, and I've seen some pretty creative shapes, because usually when people like longer pads, it's for an overnight application. And so I've seen some really creative shapes out there for overnight. So I'm thinking I might do a video about overnights and what you should consider and how I like my overnights to be made, and we can cover all of that. And you don't have to wear an overnight, a longer pad as an overnight, but I do. So it'll probably be in that umbrella. Okay, let's see. What is my favorite method or the best method for getting out a stain after a pad has been washed and dried? The best thing is not to put it in the dryer until it is completely stain free. However, we have accidents. People take things out of the washer without noticing that the stain didn't come out, and it goes into the dryer, comes out of the dryer, and you're like, oh my God, is this ruined forever? What do I do? The first thing I would do is I would throw that thing right back into a sink of OxyClean and see if you can get it to fade out. I am currently amassing stain sticks and stain removers to do trials with. I have one pad, and it is one of my favorite pads. I finally got another stained pad, y'all. I had the one before, but after repeated washings, it's so faded I can't really use it as a test stain anymore. But I have one now, and so I have a pad, and I'm gonna test several different stain treaters on it. I've got a bunch of Farmer's Stick. I've ordered some Ruby's Red Wash. I've got a homemade stain remover that one of the ladies over in Sewing Cloth Pads, she and I did a thing together, and she sent me a little sample of this homemade stain stick that it's a lard based, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But stain stick, and so she sent me a sample of that. And I've just ordered a bunch of things. The Ecover brand, it comes in a bottle and it has a little scrubby thing on it, and you rub that on. So I'm going to try a couple different things, and I'll let you know which stain treatment products I like the best. But the key thing is, don't put it in the dryer, because once you put it in the dryer, especially if it's a hot dryer, it's going to set the proteins into that fabric, and it's going to be a nightmare to get out. And sun bleaching. One of the very best ways to get stains out is to go out on a sunny day, and we're going into the summer months now, so that should be in abundance for most of us, except for our fellows in the southern hemisphere. But you know what? In Australia and New Zealand, you guys still get lots of sunshine during the wintertime, don't you? Somebody tell me about, you know what? That's my question for y'all. In the southern hemisphere countries where we have the seasons flipped, what are your winters like? Talk to me about those. I'm interested. Okay, but anyway, set them out in the sun, open up the pad, under direct sunlight. Even through a window it will work, but it's best if it's just like hanging out in the sun or laying out in the sun. The sun will bleach the tarnation out of anything, but keep in mind it will also bleach the pigments in your fabric. So it will lighten up the fabric print as well as your stain. Let's see. For incontinence use, what are my tips and tricks for incontinence use? What do you need to remember? What can cause I can't really speak to the causes of incontinence, because again, I'm not even a nurse. I don't have any sort of medical background, and the only thing I know about this stuff is this stuff that I read or the stuff that I have personal experience with. And my recommendation to you would be, if you have difficulty holding your bladder or controlling anything urinary related, or if you have multiple urinary tract infections, just go to a doctor and go to another one and go to another one until you find one who takes your issue seriously and wants to talk to you about solutions, because there are solutions for almost anything. But I mean, urinary incontinence can be a result of nerve damage. It can be a result of muscle atrophy. It can be a result of just a basically weak pelvic floor. It can be the result of bladder prolapse. It can be the result of a lot of things. So I wouldn't even begin to speculate on what all the reasons were, or to attempt to educate people on that. I can't. I suffer from it. I can't educate you on it. I'm sorry. But what I can tell you is that for most people who have minor to moderate incontinence, a cloth pad can be fashioned that will take care of your needs. And I'm spending quite a lot of time learning how to make a gusseted pad shell that seems to be very popular for people who have moderate to heavy incontinence. So that at some point I can talk to you better about what those kinds of products are. But for mild to light moderate incontinence, you're not going to have any trouble finding a pattern or finding a way to make or purchase pads that can really help you with that. And they're going to be so much more comfortable than the disposable ones. So they're worth the investment, especially for incontinence people, because you're going to wear them every day. So you will get your investment back on the more, because cloth pads cost more than the disposables, in the initial but they save you money over the long run. Well, for people who use their pads for incontinence, we don't wear them 1 week out of the month. We wear them every day. And so you're really going to get a return on your investment, not to mention the fact that they are so much more comfortable, and especially with holding urine against your skin, they're so much better. They're so much better. Okay. Oh, and then the other thing I wanted to say about incontinence pads is that, I was asked, oh, do you have any tips and tricks? Yes. Find a brand of gentle wipes, or make yourself some gentle wipes with like aloe and water, something for sensitive skin so that you have something moist to clean your skin with. Get the urine off your skin as frequently throughout the day as is convenient and possible for you. I use wet wipes. I have wet wipes. I carry them in a little thing in my wet bag in my purse. And every time I change, every time I go toilet, I clean myself, because if you have urine on your skin, it's not good. You don't want to leave it there. So clean yourself up. And the best way to do that, especially if you work or you go to school and you're not at home and you can't, it doesn't have to be dramatic. You just get some wet wipes and find a brand or make some for yourself that feel good on your skin. Also, the toppers that I prefer on my pads for incontinence are flannel, 100% cotton flannel, and charcoal bamboo fleece. Charcoal bamboo fleece is not like regular bamboo fleece. Bamboo fleece is an absorbent layer, and you'll see lots of people talking about that. Bamboo fleece, organic bamboo fleece, heavy, super heavy. If it doesn't say charcoal, it's not what I'm talking about. Charcoal bamboo fleece is different. It's been treated with charcoal, and it is a wicking fabric as opposed to an absorbent fabric, but it's super soft. And I'll do a video about that at some point, because I got to introduce you to charcoal bamboo fleece at some point. It's my favorite stay dry fabric, because it pulls the stuff away from you right down into the pad, and then the top surface stays very dry feeling. It's also odor resistant. And flannel, because flannel absorbs liquid very, very quickly, more quickly than any of the polyester fabrics or regular woven cotton. Okay, I think that's it for incontinence. How do you compare pads with and without PUL? How do you have, do you have two pads that you feel offer similar protection? Okay, this is basically comparing pads with PUL to pads without PUL. So in other words, so if I get a light absorbency with a PUL layer, is that equal to a heavy pad? It's not really a good comparison to make, because absorption-wise, a moderate pad is comparable to a moderate pad. If this one has PUL in it, it means that even if you oversaturate the pad, it's not going to leak. But it doesn't mean that it's going to hold more than this pad, and it doesn't mean it's going to be better for you than this pad. And I think, see, these are the questions that we have when we're terrified that we're going to leak, because we think, okay, I've got this plastic papery thing, and I still have leaks with that sometimes, but these cloth things, how's that not just going to go right through? I totally get it. I totally get it. You just don't. But they're not going to just leak straight through like that. That's not going to happen to you. Now, it can happen to you if you're a person who wore your disposables, because that plastic layer under there, you can oversaturate one of those disposable pads, and you could probably wear that sucker for 6 to 8 hours before you would have anything leak. Well, you shouldn't have been doing that. It's not healthy to hold that stuff against you, because, blood attracts bacteria, and if you're sitting in dried blood all day, no. So, but just because you could, they have that stay dry sheet of webbing on top. And so you don't feel it. It's not a big deal. Some people wear them too long. If you tried to wear a cloth pad that long, yeah, it'd probably leak on you. Because the cloth, if you had a PUL layer in it, it wouldn't. So therein lies the difference. The difference is, if you have a PUL layer in your pads, you can oversaturate the ever-loving snot out of them, and they're not going to leak on your clothing. However, the thing about cloth is that when you switch from disposables to cloth, there's this new attitude that you develop, because before pretend this bag of pads, I don't have a prop with me. You buy a bag of pads, okay, and it's got a certain number of pads in it, and you take them out one at a time, but eventually you're going to get to the end of that bag, right? So if you're like me, I never bought the big, huge ones. Well, I did towards the end, because I got a little bit more stingy with my money, and I figured it out, and it was cheaper to buy the bigger ones. But anyway, for most of my life, I would go to the store, and I would buy one box of tampons, and I would buy one little bag of the pads that I needed that had like 18 pads in it, and that was for the whole shebang. And I didn't want to waste them. You know, it was like, well, I've only had this on for like 2 hours. I could probably wear this all day. So I don't want to waste it. Well, there's no wasting with cloth. That's the cool part, is that if you wear it for 2 hours, you put it in your wet bag, you can wash it and wear it again tomorrow. You know, there's no running out. There's no using it up. There's no using them all up. There's no lots of trash. And so the mindset changes a little bit. And so I think it's pretty common amongst cloth pad users that we change more frequently now that we're on cloth than we did when we were on disposables. And it's not because we have to not have a mess. It's because we like putting on fresh pads, and there's no longer any kind of a guilt or anxiety, or I'm going to run out, or I don't want to have to go buy more, or I've only got 3 in my purse, you know, that kind of thing. You just don't have that anymore. So it changes things. But comparing a pad with pool to a pad without POL, I don't really know. I don't know what kind of useful information I could give you for that. But yeah, if you could put a piece of flannel on top of a piece of PUL, and you got yourself a heavy absorbency right there as far as how long you can wear it without leaking. However, for comfort, if you have a heavy flow, get a heavy pad. And for comfort, if you have a moderate flow, get a moderate pad, whether it has PUL in it or not. Okay, what rumps accessories do you consider must-haves versus conveniences? I think that you must have a wet bag, and that's really the only pad accessory you need. Yeah, that's the only accessory you need for wearing pads, is a wet bag. Everything else is just what you like. Now, for cup use, I would also say that you need a cup spot. And a cup spot is a piece of fabric with something absorbent in it that you can set down next to your toilet or on the back of your toilet, so that when you remove the cup, you can set it down. When you remove them, they have blood on them, and you don't want to set them down on a dirty surface, and you don't want to set them down on a surface that the cup will transfer blood onto, and then you have to clean it after you get up off the toilet. A lot of us just used folded up toilet paper, but once you get a cup spot, you'll never go back. They're fantastic. Also, with a cup spot, after you've cleaned yourself up and you're ready to reinsert your cup, you pick up the cup and you can completely clean the cup off with your absorbent cup spot. And then the cup spot just goes into the wet bag. It's brilliant. Brilliant! And I'm going to stop here and show you a picture of a cup pad that a wonderful lady named Tiffany sent me. She knew that I was from Arkansas, and so she sent me this cup spot that has Arkansas on it. I love it. Here it is. How cute is that? There's Arkansas in the middle. This is just a layer of cotton and a layer of fleece, and you can use this to rest your cup on as demonstrated, and then when you're ready to reinsert, you can use your cup spot to wipe it off, and cool beans. How did I know that this video was going to get just as long as the other ones? Okay, next question. Do I need to change my pad at school? I have roughly an 8-hour school day. If so, how would I do that without everyone knowing? Well, the first thing is, yes, you do need to change your pad while you're at school. If you're going to be gone for 8 solid hours, you definitely need to change your pad. Sitting in dried blood for 8 hours is not healthy. So, you know, depending on how heavy your flow is, I mean, if you're a person who just basically spots, a lot of women with very light flow, they don't need to change that frequently. But if you have a moderate to heavy flow, yeah, you need to change your pad. You don't want to be sitting in that all day. You're going to have issues with odor, you're going to have potential urinary tract infection because, you know, there's going to be potential bacteria going on in there, and your own personal cleanliness. You're not going to be comfortable, you're not going to feel dry, you're not going to feel clean. So yeah, you need to change. And the way you do that is by use of a wet bag. And I'm going to click over here and show you, or you know what? I'm going to click over, I'm going to go downstairs and get my wet bag, and then I'll be right back. Okay, Alexis, I have come back up with my, this is my day wet bag, and I'm holding it closer than me. So let me put it back here so you can see it's not big. This is my hand, and I have teeny tiny hands. Well, I have the weirdest hand thing. I have these freakishly small hands. Like, even on my wrist, they make my arms, see, this is my thing. I think that the size of my hands makes my arms look huge because I've got, you know, relatively normal sized arms for someone my size. And then I got these teeny tiny little hands. Anyway, I'm so off track. So this is a very small wet bag. You can get, you don't even have to buy like a wet bag. You can get any lined cosmetic zipper pouch or whatever. This is the bag that I keep all my cups and my cup pouches in. But originally I got it for carrying pads with me, which I don't find I have trouble with. If I'm going out somewhere and I'm going to be gone for a little bit and I'm on my cycle, I will put a pad. I just put a pad in a Ziploc and put it in my purse, and then if I have to change, then I'll take the dirty one off, fold it up, put it in the Ziploc. It's no big deal. But if you're at school and, you know, or if you're at work, or if you're in a place where, you know, on every day of your cycle, you're going to have stuff with you, it's definitely a good idea to have one of these smaller wet bags that you can carry with you. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be a cheap little cosmetic bag from, you know, a store like Walmart, or, you know, just a little Tesco type place, or Dunn's or whatever. You know, just get a little bag that doesn't cost much, that's lined. And then you can put 2, 3, 4 pads in there. You can put some little wipes in there for yourself. Gosh, you can even put in tablets, you know, for menstrual cramping. You can put in whatever it is that you would like to carry with you for your period care. Your cup, a cup pouch to put your cup in if you want to take it out, rinse it off, and not use it anymore. Cup use is also very easy to do discreetly in public, and I'll talk about that in the cup video when I answer those questions. But if you're just using pads, something like this, if you take this out of your backpack, people are going to think you're going to go do your makeup in the bathroom. They're not going to think, oh, she's going to change her pads. They're not going to think that. They're not going to have any idea. And here's the other truth. Nobody is looking. Nobody is looking at you and wondering, what is she doing in the ladies' room? It's one of the things that we all do, and I'm guilty of this too. You feel like everybody's watching you. They're not. They're sitting there worried that everybody's looking at them. So they're not looking at you, for one. But number two, honestly, if they see this, they're going to think she's going to go put on some makeup, or she's got her hairbrush in there and she's going to go fix her hair, or whatever. They're not going to think, oh, she's got a bunch of strange, non-conventional menstrual products in that bag. Let's go watch her like a gazelle in the wild. I promise they won't think anything like that. So you go in there, you got one of these, you take your dirty one off, fold it, snap it, stick it back in here, put your clean one on, and you are good to go. And you can change as many times as you need, because a little bag like this, you can put 4 or 5 pads in here very comfortably. Heavy absorbency ones that are 10 inches long. So these are really great. Also, these are a good option for travel too. If you're just going on a weekend trip and you only want to take 5 or 6 pads with you, bam sis. Okay. So that's how you would change it without everyone knowing. And if you feel like that you need wet wipes to clean yourself in between pads, put a little travel size in here. Or if the pads that you, or if the, if the travel, if the wet wipes that you like to use for your personal stuff don't come in a travel size, you can just take 3 or 4 of them out, put them in a little Ziploc bag, and put those in here with your pads. So that's a very good way to do it. And if you're one of those people who's very fastidious about having a separate compartment for the dirty ones from the clean ones, they make bags like that too. You just need a 2-pocket lined bag. And you don't even need a liner in the side you're keeping the clean ones in. So there's lots of little options, but the key to it is to get a small backpack-sized handbag / messenger bag sized wet bag. And then all of your problems are solved. What is the average lifespan for a cloth pad? I got several people asked this question in several different ways. This one was from Jessica. Let's see. I don't really know, because I've only been doing this for less than a year, so obviously I've never lost a pad to having it wear out yet. I can definitely say that they last for more than 10 months. And most of mine still look brand new and are completely functional, except the flannel ones. The flannel ones get a little pilly. So you can tell that, you know, the flannel ones have been loved and washed multiple times, but they're still perfectly functional, and they still look great, and they're fine. What I have heard, you know, when people ask this question in other places, and ladies who've been using cloth for a very long time answer this question. They say 3 to 5 years. And it depends on what they're made out of. It depends on how well you take care of them. It depends on how gentle or how rough your washing machine or your washing system is, what kind of chemicals you use to stain, treat, etc. It all depends on how well the pads hold up to the way that you handle them. But 3 to 5 years for a pad. Apparently what happens is they'll get threadbare and like the toppers will start to get holes in them, or stitching will start failing because the thread gets old and stressed, and so, you know, things like that will occur, and that's when you know it's time to give the pad up. Let's see. And then the follow-up question to that one was, what do you do with your pads when they're no longer usable? She said, I know it sounds weird, but I have a hard time just throwing them away in the trash when the sole purpose is to reduce, recycle, and reuse. That's not weird. It doesn't sound weird to me at all. I think, that's from a lady named Heather. I don't think that's a weird question at all, because I've actually thought about that too. I was like, okay, well, you know, because a lot of my pads are upcycled. You know, I've made them out of old towels, or I've made them out of old shirts, or whatever. And it's like, well, I don't want to just throw them away after I'm done with them. You take them apart if you want. You can cut them up into little pieces and use them like pillow stuffing. You can use them like polyfill. A lot of people will take them after they're not usable anymore, and they wash them in the old socks, old towels, old menstrual pads, wash them and stuff them into a pet bed. You know, a lot of people make doggy bed pillows, bolsters, and stuff like that. Honestly, that's what I intend to use all of my, you know, clothing that I can't donate for whatever reason, like it's not nice enough to donate because it has holes in it or something, or towels that I don't want to donate because they're not nice either, but I don't want to use them anymore. It would be something that I would turn into a project. I would sit on the sofa in front of whatever television show I was watching or whatever I was doing and cut them up into teeny tiny little pieces that could be used for pillow stuffing. That's my recommendation. Okay. What online resources have you found the most helpful and would recommend to new rump users and cloth pad sewers? Well, obviously my YouTube channel. No, seriously. The ones that I have found most helpful is the Sewing Cloth Pads group on Facebook. The Luna Pads website. I recommend that every new person to cloth go to the Luna Pads website. And whether you buy any of their pads or not, they have a treasure trove of videos, and I watched those for hours and hours, and read all of their Q&A stuff that they have. They have so much information. The Luna Pads website is extraordinarily well done. And there's lots of information for new people there, and I highly recommend it. So go to the Luna Pads website. The Sewing Cloth Pads group on Facebook is the best place to go if you're a new sewer making cloth pads for the first time. And the Precious Stars YouTube channel run by the young woman named Bree. I recommend that one. She's been around for a very long time. She knows the answers to lots of questions. Plus, she's just adorable. I love watching her. Okay. Oh, and it feels like I'm not being fair because I actually know her a little bit personally now, and I adore her. Her name is Alice, and she has a channel called First Door on the Left, and her YouTube channel is amazing too. And I feel like I'm cheating. My face is getting red. I feel like I'm cheating saying, go watch my friend on YouTube. But I've never met her in person. We only know each other through the cloth pads and the internet, but it's because I was a total fangirl of her YouTube channel. She's adorable. Her name is Alice, and it's called First Door on the Left on YouTube. So First Door on the Left, Precious Stars, the Luna Pads website, and the Sewing Cloth Pads group on Facebook. All right. What do you... Oh, no, I already read that one. Did I buy or make my first cloth pads? I made about the first 10 or so before I decided I wanted to go and see. I wanted to try some different kinds, but I didn't know how to sew any different kinds. So I got on Etsy, and because someone recommended that, and I started buying cloth pads, and I have not stopped buying cloth pads since. And, oh, I really liked this question. And the name... In America, we would pronounce this way, and I know I'm wrong, and I'm so sorry. But it looks like Lone, or maybe Lonnie Thompson. How big are reusable cloth pads in America? Here in Denmark, it is very unknown. Well, It's the same here, but I think that like here, I bet you in Denmark too, there are more people doing it than you know. It's because for whatever reason in all of our Western cultures, we look at menstruation, and it's not just Western cultures. I mean, I was reading about, the way menstruation is dealt with in India, and especially in rural India. It's considered this shameful thing, I mean, they're still not mainstream, but there are, there's quite a few of us in the United States. So thousands and thousands of women, I couldn't even begin to quantify it, because most of us are, hiding it or secretive about it, because if we talk to people about it, the response is not guaranteed to be positive. But, once you get online and you realize how many women there are who are looking into this choice, or who have already made this choice for the environment and for comfort and for health and all of those reasons, which are all extremely valid reasons, I bet it's the same in Denmark. I bet there's a lot more women than you think. We don't talk about it openly. But no, it's not a big thing here. Why is my face turning purple? My face is turning red. I don't know why. Anyway, but it's not a very big thing here, but it's like an underground thing. It's getting bigger, and I bet in Denmark that it's the same way. Question, where is your favorite place or places? Oh, this was a sewing question, but I'm going to answer it anyway because I already did the sewing questions video, and she asked this after I had already published that, but it's kind of about pads because it's a question about where I get the fabric that I make my toppers out of. What are my top 3 places? Well, I only really have 2 places. My favorite place, hands down, is a website accessible in North America called fabric.com. And I hope that there are places like this. It's a big warehouse fabric store where they have this huge selection. I mean, thousands upon thousands of types of fabric. And so anyway, I go in there, and in the search box, I type panel, the word panel. And because that will bring up mostly fun, novel, graphic prints. Because most of our fabric, like if this was a fabric print, it is a fabric print actually, it's just a laminated fabric. See how this repeats? So we would sell this by the yard or by the meter. And so we would have, we would sell it by the length of it. Well, a panel of fabric will have just, a series of images or a series of designs that are separate, kind of like if you've watched my video about feature patchwork pads, the one that I had with the tea canisters on it, one panel of that fabric has the design that has one of each of the tea canisters on it, and I think I bought 2 panels of it. So they sell it by the panel instead of selling it by the yard or the meter. And I find most of the most, cute, where everybody goes, oh, where did you get that? I bought it by looking up panel in fabric.com search box. And then the other place that I have purchased things from, I purchased from Spoonflower, so I guess I do have 3. I have purchased material from Spoonflower. I'm not a big fan of the fabric though. They have some amazing custom prints at Spoonflower where you can find this beautiful artwork and then they'll put it on a print for you. Put it on a piece of fabric for you. And they have lots of different fabrics to choose from, and all I did was purchase the least expensive 100% cotton one. And I wasn't really impressed with the way they put the design on the fabric. It looked so beautiful on my monitor, and then when I received it, it looked like it had been painted onto the fabric as opposed to being part of the fabric. So it worked. It's nice. Spoonflower. If you have something, really unique or different that you're looking for, if somebody can make it for you, I bet Spoonflower could. They do custom fabrics. And then the third one is Etsy. I can browse on Etsy for hours and hours, and there's people who make their own fabric. There's people who sell fat quarters. There's people who sell, which is a quarter of a yard, or, a quarter of a meter. So Etsy, fabric.com in the panel search, and Spoonflower. Those are my places. Okay, we finally made it through all the questions, and I think this one's actually longer than the other ones. Gosh. I can't be short, can I? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will try to get the cups one up, and then there will be another one. I mean, you guys gave me a lot of questions. I think between now and next time we do one of these, knock on wood, there will be another one of these. We'll do a live event or something. I gotta figure out how to do that because mercy. But you know what? I had fun. I'm just worried about wearing you guys out with all these long videos of me answering questions, but I hope you like them. You took the time to ask them to enter into the giveaway, and I wanted to make sure that I took the time to answer them. So that's what I'm attempting to do, and I'll try to put the cups video up very soon, and then there will be another one that deals with all the questions people asked about how to talk to family, how to talk to friends, and how to spread the word, and how to deal with the feelings of shame that other people can put on us. Those types of questions, and that should be the last video, I think, for the Q&A this time. But anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting the channel, and I'll see you again very, very soon. And the giveaway is very close. I'm getting very excited. All the pads are ready to go for the giveaway, and I can't wait. Okay, bye.